Welcome back. All right, so off of the disappointment that I felt today as a hockey fan, I thought it's a good time to watch The Flash now. Good time as any. I did just watch this today. I didn't watch it on Friday. Completely slipped my mind. And yesterday I was like, well, I wanted to, but again, time constraints. So here we are, Sunday, and it's a new world, part three. Changes. I have to say this again. This really should have been two episodes. Although after this one, you might have been able to just restrict it to one. I do enjoy the younger Nora, and I say that because, of course, Barry's mother's name is Nora, Barry's daughter's name is Nora. So, daughter Nora, I guess I could call her. At any rate, they start with Eddie at the graveyard. That's where we ended the last episode. Riveting stuff. The cop says you could be a clone or a cyborg, and there's no laughter. There's no laugh track. There could have been the idea that Eddie's come back to life. She's like, you could be a clone or a cyborg. That's a normal conversation to have. And then she talks about not jumping to conclusions. And of course, she didn't mention a mat with conclusions on it you can jump to, so that's a fail. And then gets sucked up into the sky. Because, sure, that might as well happen. And I guess she's dead. Iris is then at the hospital. She's still in labor. They don't show her throughout the episode. This has to be the longest labor ever. Like, the entire episode. Iris is in labor still at the end of this episode. This is just insane. Anyways, Barry's missing and bouncing around time because, sure, Grant Gustin wasn't in about half of this episode. Doesn't surprise me. Really, really doesn't. I look forward to next week when he's not in half the episode either. So they do exposition with the Speed Force, yada yada, you're all doomed, I can't help you, I'm dying, blah blah blah. We've heard this from the Speed Force before. Whatever. So the timeline will be erased, blah blah blah. So that's where we're headed. And you could have just done this in two episodes. You don't need four. So we go to 2049, and this is the most shocking laziness I have ever seen on a television show ever. Ever. And I'm wearing The Office, and there were some lazy moments on there. I cannot believe. You know how when they go to the future and they use aging makeup? Flash doesn't. Not today, anyways. They've done this before. They've had Iris in the future, and they've done like little crow's feet on her, and they've tried to make her look older. This episode, they're just we're almost done. We could use aging makeup, but yeah, to hell with it. Nah, we're not. We're gonna give like Iris this kind of cute looking gray up at the front. Rest of it's all gonna look the same. Everybody's gonna look the same. That's everybody's the same. Chester's married to Allegra because that might as well happen, and of course XS. Nora is there. Um, I really wish in this show, honestly, that the kids were in the show more, which might mean Barry being it less. It's weird too, because remember how Flash has two kids? This show doesn't. Nope. oh, this is. I'm so glad this is almost over. Eddie is then shown in the Flash Museum looking for Barry in the future. Barry's in space. Oh my god. Future Barry is in space. So, sure. Why not? Where's 2049 Flash? He's on the other side of the moon. Okay, sure. Why not? Yeah, cool. Great. All right. Eddie remembers shooting himself because that's a completely normal thing to remember. And then he's tempted by the negative Speed Force, right? So, Nora recognizes Eddie. So the team talks about Eddie from the past and how did Eddie get here and everything. There's no Flash at this point in the show because why would you expect the Flash to be in a show called The Flash? Eddie remembers Nora from 2013, and there's a whole bunch of filler. There's a whole lot of exposition. He regrets killing himself and not being with Iris, so we're rehashing storylines from a while ago. We go back to 2023. Mark loves Barry, I guess, but he wasn't able to use that love to fight off the crystal's power over him. And so they decide empathy could fight off the crystal. So, what does that mean? Love can fix this. Because of course it can. Because we've gone full Doctor Who with this. Although Doctor Who has only used love to fix things a couple of times, where they write themselves into a corner and I guess love fixes it. This show, always love fixes that, right? Yeah. Iris's love for Barry fixes it, right? Sure, why not? That might as well happen. So Cecile can project herself into her future self, because that might as well happen. So she can take her mind, because she's an empath, and push herself into her future self. I don't know. So Nora then picks up the crystal. So because why not? The crystal's just in like the Gideon area there, and so she's possessed now. And she goes to Eddie, and we get more exposition on the life that could have been for Eddie. I'm not writing it all down because it doesn't matter. This is the problem with a four-parter. A lot of the stuff in these episodes, it doesn't matter. When you see Eddie in the future and you see Eddie and you're like, okay, so Thawne is gonna turn evil here, right? Like there's nothing else that can happen. There's absolutely no point in having Eddie back unless the point is to turn him evil and to use him as the avatar for the negative speed force. So that's really where you're going from point A to point B. Cecile projects into the future. She looks exactly the same. I have to say, this was the best rating of the episode, was her looking at herself in the mirror and going, damn, do I look good. Yes, you do, Cecile, because you still look like yourself, even though at that point she'd be in her 60s. Like, it's ridiculous. The actress that plays Cecile is about the same age as I am, and so she'd be in her 60s. That I just don't. Yeah, I don't think she's 50 yet, but man. Anyways, at least she's figures she looks good. So there's that. Barry's in outer space gets mentioned again. Cecile falls out of the future because she finds out from Allegra and Chester that she only sees Joe and her daughter twice a year. So Joe and her daughter still live together because she's like, I'm gonna go see Joe and my daughter, and they're like, oh, you only go up there a couple times a year. So that makes her sad. This is the thing that drives me nuts. So you find out that 30 years in the future, something in your life's gone wrong. So you have time to fix it, right? Because it's not set in stone. I don't know. It'd be like finding out, that one week you don't play the lottery. Well, you win the lottery and you didn't play your numbers, but it's in the future, and then you go back to the present. Well, you can still play the lot. You can still win. It's a cheat. I don't. If you ever go to the future, don't do it. Don't you dare look up lottery numbers when you're in the future. Barry never does that. Neither does any of the villains, and I think it's nice that the villains never figure out, I could be a billionaire. Why am I fighting with the Flash? Anyways, it's important that you don't understand that. So what gets me with this is Cecile falling out of the future. She's trying to save the timeline, right? She's trying to make sure that she can save everything, and she gets sad because she doesn't see her husband and her daughter enough in the future. Chester apparently was going to go to the future. It never happened. They asked Keone, and Keone's like, I can't. We know Keone's gonna die in the finale. We know that's where it's going. She's gonna sacrifice herself. She'll probably become the Speed Force because that might as well happen. So not Nora's talking to Eddie, and it's really obvious it's not Nora. And you would think Eddie would have figured it out, but he doesn't because nobody ever does. Barry appears in the same room as not Nora, so I guess he's being just thrown around the timeline. Now, I'm guessing the Speed Force is doing it. I don't really care. He's just being thrown to wherever the exposition needs him. And of course, not Nora tries to kill him. Eddie stops it, and Barry runs him off. The part I can't figure out is that he runs Eddie back to the house he's been living in, and the negative Speed Force is too stupid to realize that's what he's done. Maybe the negative Speed Force was like, well, Barry's not stupid enough to take him there, right? Yeah, no, it's Barry. You might want to think this through. So Eddie's fake life apparently was made of negative tachyons. Like, Barry just throws this out there. Everything in here seems to be made of negative tachyons. Those are probably what brought you back to life. Sure. Yeah, all right. Yeah, if you're gonna make up science, that's how you make up science. You just throw it out there. I miss the days of the Star Trek Next Generation when you would have science fiction that had not fact to it, but at least the theories worked. So anything you see in Star Trek The Next Generation, from a scientific standpoint, the theories at the time were sound. On what you're seeing, sure. So when you get into antimatter and matter and everything on that, warp drive, everything, there is some science behind that's possible. The Flash, they just say words and they expect you to just forget about it. Cecile, sad for future Cecile, because sure, you might as well still be sad about something that's 30 years in the future while the world could burn. That's really important. And again, she has that choice. Chester reassures her and everything's fine. Barry talks to Eddie and is clearly leading Eddie down the road to turn evil. Like, everything Barry's saying to Eddie is going to make him turn evil. Like, you're not helping Barry. You're actively making this worse. And yeah, and Eddie immediately starts evil, and all that's missing is a mustache on his face that he can twirl. That's the only thing. It should have just appeared out of nowhere, because why not? The second I died, everybody forgot about me, and I wrote that down because Eddie says that. He damn straight they did. This show does that. It's a superhero show, so it's almost like, oh, he's dead. Who wants to go out for milkshakes? I'm feeling milkshakes. Has everybody? All right, milkshakes. All right, we're gonna get somebody in here to clean this up. Yeah, sorry, Eddie. I'm gonna take your fiance now because he took Iris. Iris was engaged to Eddie. I hated it. Eddie was basically Priya in this situation, just keeping Iris and Barry apart. This was where I was actively hoping Barry and Iris would never be a thing again, but little did I know that, yeah. I mean, so Barry marries his fiance. Nora, this is what really got me. So there's a blonde-haired girl, same actress, still Nora, who's like, Eddie, come with me to this life you can have, this altar where you're my dad. And I'm like, okay, wait, what? What they're proposing here is not that Eddie steals the family away from Barry. It's the idea that Eddie marries Iris and they have a daughter who's also named Nora and is played by the same actress. So I mentioned in previous videos how, because Iris gets pregnant 3 months early, that can't be Nora then. Yeah, it's Nora. That doesn't matter that she's 3 months. That doesn't matter. It's still the same, makes the exact same person. You're just destined to make the exact same. So when Eddie has a kid with Iris, it's Nora. Because sure, except as blonde Nora instead, because that's how biology works, that Eddie will knock up Iris at the exact same time, because that's meant to happen. And I guess the kid's still named Nora, which is weird, isn't it? Because that's Barry's mother's name. The whole thing just, I don't, I understand that if you had some other actress who looked completely different standing there going, Dad, I'm supposed to be your kid, fine. But you know what? It would make more sense. It'd make more sense to have he's not, oh my gosh. Anyways. So Cecile goes back to, nope, not yet. Not Nora threatens to destroy Central City if Barry doesn't bring Eddie to the negative Speed Force. How can you not find Eddie? You have found Eddie throughout time. You brought him back to life. Now you can't find him exactly where you put him. All right, so Cecile goes back to 2049 because, the sadness passed. So now she wants to try to, prevent everybody from dying. So that's important because, I would like to help you, but I'm sad. Well, we can't expect Cecile to help us when she's sad. So then they have the CGI chase between not Nora and Barry, and it was very CGI. It's weird that we're into year 9 for the show, and it feels like the CGI has gone backwards. And I think it's gone backwards for 2 reasons. One, it hasn't advanced, and the rest of CGI globally has. But I also will say this, the budget for this show is clearly not very high. I remember when Smallville was on, and it was known that there was one special effects shot you could have per episode. Once per episode, you could have something CGI related happen in Smallville. Outside of that, they didn't have the budget. So they would have, and that was why in Smallville, one of my favorite seasons ended with a thud, because they couldn't afford to show us this big battle that happened. So it happens off screen. So this is not the first time that a show on CW has made me rage, because I remember that. I remember being like, I can't wait to see Doomsday fight against Clark. And then Clark comes in. Yeah, so I killed him. Done. He's gone. And I was like, well, clearly Doomsday isn't dead because we didn't actually see anything happen. No, he's gone. So I'm waiting for, in the finale for this, to just hear, yeah, no, they're all dead. There was this big battle. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see everybody watching out the window at Star Labs while Barry's fighting with every villain ever, and you just see flashes, and you don't see anything, and everybody's like, "Wow, oh look at that! Oh, Barry got him there. Oh wow!" And then Barry just flies in with like a couple of them in his hands and goes, "Look, I got him! Wasn't that great, Barry? That was awesome. It would save them so much money." So yeah, so is Barry gonna fight his own daughter? No. She flings him through a building, but he's fine because it's Flash, so he's fine. He is just a flesh wound. Eddie then goes to Iris. She believes it's him because he's like, "Look in my eyes, it's me," and she's like, "Yeah, it's you," because Iris is not the smartest. Nobody on this show is though. They just believe on face value that everybody is who they say they are, and it just leads to so much death and destruction. The family photo changes. And you know, I have to say, I mean, Eddie picks up the family photo and it changes. So instead of having two kids, they have one. And Nora has blonde hair. And it's Eddie, it's Nora, and it's Iris. And so Iris looks at the family photo. No reaction. None. Most people would look at that family photo that changed in front of their eyes and throw it on the floor and go, "All right, witchcraft. Don't know what the hell's going on here." Not Iris. She's just like, "Huh. Well, that's weird. Last time I looked at this picture, Nora wasn't a blonde. Barry looks different. Kind of looks like you, Eddie." Like, I just. Anyways, so. Iris again doesn't react. Cecile then makes the save and pulls the negative speed force out of Nora. So remember that they were going to use like empathy. If you amp up the empathy, you can help Nora fight it off. No, she just pushes it out, and then the negative speed force just goes poof rather than going back into Nora and going, "What did you think was going to happen?" And Cecile says, "Call me Virtue." All right, sure. So she's changed her superhero name in 2023. So she's already made a change for 2049, but it's fine because she was sad earlier. Iris chooses Barry. This is the thing, you know. Iris had to know that Eddie was being tempted by the dark side of the Force. Sorry, by the negative speed force, and she just makes it worse. Everything Iris and Barry do in this episode just makes Eddie's turn easier. Because Barry's like, "Yeah, it's not your life, dude. It's not going to happen." And Iris is like, "Yeah, I'm going to choose Barry, dude. I don't care what you think." And even says to him, "Even when we were together, it was Barry. It was always Barry." That's a prick thing to say. You can't do that. That's just, why do you have to do that, Iris? So he kind of goes full on evil and gives an evil speech, and she just kind of watches him leave. All I was waiting for was her to go to the door and go, "Bye, Eddie. Very well. Hope I see you soon. Hope you don't die again. Bye." I choose Barry. Did I mention I'm choosing Barry? You sounded kind of evil, but you're not going to be evil, are you? Well, call me. It's just, I don't. And then we see 2023 Barry and Cecile talking to the 2049 team, who again haven't aged. Chester, Allegra, and nobody's aged. Nothing. No aging at all. Star Labs looks exactly the same 26 years from now as it does now. It's a miracle. So the timeline starts fracturing. Future Iris talks to present day Barry because while the timeline is fracturing, you want to sit down and have a chat. This show is all about, everybody could die, but first, let's go have a talk. Okay, so everybody could die. There's this big thing going on in the sky. But let's talk about how we feel. Let's talk about us and love and life. And while they're talking, he vanishes again. So he's being pulled around the timeline again. And then when Eddie turns evil, there's a cover of, I guess that's why they call it The Blues, Elton John's old song, while Eddie decides to accept the crystal and turns evil. I guess that's why they call it The Blues? Okay. I just thought that was a weird song, so I thought I would throw that in here. It's odd. So there's one episode left. Again, so the finale is going to be Eddie. I think Savitar's supposed to be back, which is future Barry as well. All the villains are basically supposed to pile on. So basically, the next episode is going to be like a video game, and you reach the end, and you got to defeat everybody again before you get to the final boss. It's Bahamut, isn't it? Oh gosh, he's gonna fight a dragon. I'm using an old Final Fantasy reference. I apologize, but when you get to the end of is it Final Fantasy 3, you have to fight all the villains that you already vanquished, all the bosses, and then you have to vanquish the finale. And pretty sure Bahamut is the finale there. But yeah, so I look forward to Barry fighting a dragon next week. Might as well. I mean, this whole four parter that should have been two. Like, what happened this week? What happened? What happened in this episode? Is a question that I found myself asking because Eddie starts at the graveyard, and then the cop gets sucked into this sky vortex, and at the end, Eddie accepts the crystal and decides he's going to be evil. Anything that happened in between bears no consequence on anything at all. None. And that's the problem. And that's why I say that, like, you could absolutely have done this as a two-parter instead of four. Four's a little much. But hey, I'll review all four and we'll have the discussion later. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. I am sure that reviewers online have talked glowingly about this episode. I've been surprised because I've been finding positive reviews for these episodes online, and yet there was a list I found that graded all the seasons, and this season's been rated the worst by a couple I've seen, which I won't argue necessarily, but at least there's a lot less Flash on the Flash, and there we are. All right. But let me know your thoughts as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. So for people who don't like all the Flash videos on this channel, good news. There's only one left. That's it. That's done. And then I'll get into maybe talking more about The Office and definitely more about the Big Bang Theory as well. The problematic things with Big Bang Theory and that kind of thing. I've thought about doing that with Friends as well, but Friends is a more... I feel like Friends is a more complicated situation because society as a whole was different when Friends was on, and so things you could say on television then that we didn't bat an eye at, you couldn't say now, that kind of thing. Whereas with the Big Bang Theory, it just felt more lazy than anything else. But there's the debate too about what's actually funny, and that's a whole other debate for a whole other time. So stay tuned for that, because I have no problem with talking about different comedies and how certain comedies appeal to me and certain don't, and why. I have no problem getting into that either. So hey, there's that coming up. Thank you guys so much, though, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.